Good evening, everybody. This is Nabaz Modi Singhania of the Body Art Fitness Centers going live with you again this Sunday evening, and I'm very, very excited to have a very special guest with us today, Miss Malini Agarwal, who needs absolutely no introduction. Malini has been doing some fabulous work. She is firstly the founder and creative director of Miss Malini Entertainment and the founder of, and that's what I'm so much more interested in right now, the founder of the Ignore No More online movement against cyber sex crime. The premise of this being online sexual harassment, which is so prevalent, and this happens in a multitude of ways, right? So I'm going to get Malini in before we start talking any further about any other matters to do with this. All right, let me tell you a little bit more about what Malini has been up to in this space. Why am I not able to invite her in? I think both of us are having a little network trouble these days. Let me try that again. Oh, no, I'm having some trouble. Malini, I hope you are in. There you are, network connected. Good. So I'm in Mumbai and Malini is right now in Delhi, and I suspect we both might be having. Hi, I was just telling everyone that I suspect we both might be having a little bit of network trouble, considering I'm in Mumbai, you're in Delhi, and we have had heavy rains. Lovely to see you, Malini, and lovely to hear, read, know all about the fabulous work that you're doing these days. So I just want to get everyone on the same page before we get started, although I doubt anyone really needs a brief, considering how much this has been around. But yes, online sexual harassment has been a big one from time immemorial. It is the reason why a lot of mothers don't want their daughters, or boys even, to get online. There's a lot of trepidation of even oneself coming online. There's always a fear, spoken or otherwise, that, oh my God, God knows what people will say. They can say anything, anyone can say anything obnoxious, sexually or rude or taunting. And I want to clarify that this movement where Malini is categorically in this direction. I mean, just to segregate from the fact that there could be many other premise of harassment online. For example, a multitude of ways. For example, we may feel, in the banking or financial sector, there's been some sort of hacking, there's been some sort of misuse, there's been misconduct in terms of passwords, trolling, data storing, putting to unauthorized use, etc., etc. Malini's focus is precisely cyber sex crime. Now, as a Parsi, I have to say, there's been a huge feminist in me where I've been brought up feeling, even more than equal to the male, a little more than equal to the male. And therefore, I so resonate with what you've been doing out here, Malini. It's fabulous. Isn't it also true that while we talk on these things, yes, there is a certain responsibility to conduct oneself in a way which doesn't invite this sort of behavior from others as well. That is a fact. There is a balance to things. I also want to make a sharp distinction before we begin on what you have to say today and on others who seem to almost invite trouble. I mean, sometimes people seem to invite being trolled, seem to kind of seek it even. Maybe by saying things which are inaccurate, just not true, saying things which are highly controversial, targeting certain people wrongly, defaming, certain people, strong name calling, abusive language. So we're segregating that sort of behavior from what we're talking about. Frankly, those sort of people might even, well, who knows, deserve to get it under certain circumstances. So we're not getting into that. One has to be very responsible, can't just shoot off at the mouth and, expect no consequence. But on your conversation out here, you must be feeling, right, that in these particular COVID days and times, this matter possibly has become worse because there is, this whole situation of, firstly, the world exists only in 1D now. It doesn't exist in 3D. So this is really the only way we have to communicate, bend, get across to each other on any level, good, bad, ugly, etc. And the emotions are not particularly good, right? I mean, there is bitterness, there's anger, just basically in the world with what's going on. There is frustration, there is job loss, negativity, depression, a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity, possibly drinking, abuse of sorts, being bored. And this must be amalgamating, this must be kind of, accelerating the problem, right? So would you tell us a little bit, Malini, about how exactly, why did you get into this? What prompted you to get into this?
Well, first of all, Nawaz, thank you so much for having me. And I have to tell everyone how we even started having this conversation. I think this says so much about the kindness of people and big hearts they have, because I think Nawaz had started seeing me post so much about Ignore No More and the things that were happening. And one night at 2 a.m., she sent me a message to say, "Are you okay, babe?" And I thought that was so kind of you to reach out and do that and check on me, even though we don't keep in touch on a regular basis. But that concern means the world to me. And I think that's something that gave me also a lot of insight into how well we are set up to get the right people, for good people to be empowered to do something. So if you ask me about the Ignore No More campaign, how it came about is exactly what you said. In this time of coronavirus, we've all been sitting at home, staring at screens like this, right? With live comments going up on the feed. Now, by virtue of what I do for a living in entertainment, we see a lot of trolling between certain fans with other fan clubs. A lot of people have a very big, major love-hate relationship with their favorite celebrities. And since we're in the media, we tend to be in the firing line of a lot of it. And as you rightly said, there are different kinds of behavior, some that might end up getting some negative responses because they're being inflammatory and they're doing something like defaming someone else. But this is exactly what you said. We're taking up the cause of online sexual harassment, specifically with Ignore No More Online, because I think it is the biggest problem. And I think that it is something that is so unprovoked, unsolicited, unfair. And I think it's very easy and clear to make the distinction that if I put up a picture of myself in a bikini on my Instagram, that does not give anybody the right to send me a lewd or vulgar comment. And I think this is where we need to draw the very clear distinction, right? I'm not saying anything against somebody else's religion, anybody else's community. If I'm putting up a picture of myself looking sexy, if you say, or, you work in fitness. I have so many friends who have yoga studios and yoga instructors, and they get the most obscene messages sometimes. And, and I think there's a couple of different layers to this, right? You have people who are just ignorant and don't know how to compliment a woman. So they'll say something like nice boobs, thinking that that's okay, which is shocking because they're, what response are you going to get that's going to go anywhere from there? And there's some people who just think that sitting behind my computer, I can say anything I want because there's no accountability. And those are the people that we want to get this message across to, that this is not okay. And like you rightly said, you have, children, and you don't want them to grow up in a world where it's expected. You don't want them to come online feeling like, well, beta, you're going to be online, you're going to be on social media. Guys are going to say obscene things to you. Just ignore it. You don't want that to happen.
Yeah. So Malini, I have to say that though I've been in fitness for the longest, And yes, in fitness, you are wearing probably crop tops and, your midriff is open, you're wearing hot pants, etc., etc. Honestly, I've never received any sort of rude, lewd, so on and so forth comments based on that, because even in that, there is a dignity, there is a certain way of dressing regardless, where things are not falling out, or, I'm not inviting trouble. I'm not actually saying, hey, come and get me, sort of a thing. So, which is where I started to say that there is a responsibility both ways. There could be yoga teachers, there could be ballet teachers, there's so many professions. I could be a gymnast. There are so many professions that need me to dress in a certain way. As a lawyer, I may be dressed differently. Now, that by itself doesn't and should not invite trouble. So there is
And
equal
there's a
responsibility.
And the thing is, aside from that, what I've seen is in a lot of cases, it might just be a regular photo. So it's not even that people can say it's justified that she was wearing something that I felt like I had to comment on her boobs. Sometimes it's just a normal, very normal picture. Like I get sometimes really obscene direct messages, not in response to a particular message, but just someone who wants to send something vulgar. Like, so we recently reported a
Oh,
spate of
direct
people.
messages are the worst for everyone.
Yeah, and they'll
Yeah,
just say
because
anything they
you think
want.
nobody else is watching. It's just you and
Nobody's
that person.
watching.
That's why,
Yeah.
right?
And I think the larger problem, the larger issue here is that, we treat the online world as a very different experience than our real reality. But I keep bringing people back to the concept that if I was standing in the middle of the road with some friends, if somebody came up to me and without provocation, that I don't know, that I've never met, never had any issue with, started saying, you whore, you slut, whatever, to my face, wouldn't I say something at that point? If you saw it happening to a third person, if you saw some guy go up to a girl on the street and drop his pants, you would say, this is not okay. You would say, call the police. You would go and comfort her. But we don't do that online. And, this is the problem, that we thought that we're all going to come online and the basic behavior, basic decency that we apply in real life will cross over. But it didn't do that. And we continue to make this mistake because social media now, Facebook's been around for 2 decades, and we've seen this happen. But somehow we've never stopped to think that, hey, maybe we need to create a module of education for kids before they get social media to understand what is okay and what is not okay to say. Just like we were taught growing up, please, thank you, cover your mouth when you cough, don't stare at people. Maybe we need to set some of these rules for people in primary schools so kids at the age of 10, 11 know it's not okay to comment on a girl's body part on her Instagram. It's not okay
It
to
does
shame.
boil down. It does boil down to not only education in
Yeah.
school, but education in the house. And it also
Yes.
boils down to every child seeing how a mother is treated by their father,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And what's happened a lot of times is that, so in some cases, we've, reported people through this Ignore No More campaign. And a lot of times these are 16-year-old boys, 15, 14, 15, 16-year-old boys sending the most obscene, lewd messages. And when they get a call from the cyber cop, they are in tears. They obviously at this point, because they're underage, their parents are spoken to. And the parents are understandably horrified because they didn't know that their son Rohan is sitting on the internet messaging girls these vulgar things, pictures of his body parts. Like that to them is like horrifying and so embarrassing. But how do we close that gap from parents being so oblivious to what's happening online with their kids? And this is both ways, right? You might have a daughter and don't know what's in her inbox, right? I think a lot of people with younger children now monitor their DMs, but at the end of the day, you don't know what she's getting that she might be deleting immediately for fear of you seeing it because
I
there's
think it's
somebody
very
saying,
hard to monitor these things from a
yeah,
parent's perspective. I think it really boils down to upbringing,
yeah,
your own conscience, and it boils down to consequences, knowing what the real consequences are going to be, and then acting
absolutely.
accordingly. Yeah. But you have done such fabulous work that I'm so impressed with. And I know you've told me all of it and you've told me so much of it. Frankly, I've been a little confused because you've had a bit of a journey. And now I know that you've come to a place where it's very simple, easy reporting, where the person who's been offended doesn't have to be put through any further embarrassment or, any further, they're not interfacing with men, reporting this or anything of that sort. So would you tell us a little bit about what you've done, how easy it is, how this is reported back, and what sort of time frames, what actually happens?
Awesome. So thank you so much for this opportunity. So basically what happened is I was new to this and I'm actually writing a book about positivity on the internet. So my plan always was that one day I'm going to take a report of somebody who sent me creepy messages and go to the police station because I didn't know that there is a cybercrime division at all. And so I kept putting it off thinking, just like you said, I don't really want to go talk to some male policeman and deal with this and what's going to happen. So I kept putting it off until a friend of mine who's an actress, Tina Singh, wrote about this guy called Shubham Cybercop, who's an ethical hacker who was catching these guys who were sending vulgar messages. So I reached out to him and started talking to him. And I was amazed to understand, it sort of opened a Pandora's box of information for me, which is what I was sharing with you, is that there is a cybercrime government website. You just Google cybercrime government, you'll get all the details of it. On that website, you can report all the different kinds of crimes. As you said, there are so many that people talk about, right? You have people who are doing cyber fraud and all of those things, but we're obviously focusing on sexual harassment. But this is a website where you can report everything, and you must. But I know that the process, and we all know, sometimes isn't such a great quick turnaround when you go through these channels. So we're actually with Ignore No More Online in the process of trying to set up our own little ethical hacker hotline, where you'll be able to call a hotline with female ethical hackers and complain and say, this is what happened to me. So it's not an embarrassing conversation with another guy. You can talk to them and they will be equipped with the tools to connect you either to a policeman, to the cyber division, to a lawyer. So where we are right now is we can connect you to the ethical hacker, Shubham Cybercop, until we set up the hotline. We've had so many lawyers come forward, Nawaz, who are working pro bono with us to help women file complaints. This happened over the last week. Swapnil Parvar came forward. He has a team of 7. He said, we don't have so much work these days, so let me offer my services, because a lot of people don't know the process. So he actually writes the FIR, and the law is amazing. The law says that if you file an FIR of a case of sexual harassment, the police must act. They have to take some cognizant action and give you a proper reply as to what happened and why. And so once that happens, and very often you don't even need to send someone to jail for 7 years. If they get one phone call from the police, believe you me, they are going to really think twice before they send that message again to anybody else. They will probably I've seen so many people go even in my mailbox from saying obscene things to sorry Didi after one phone call. It's incredible. So there's
Okay,
that.
so what are the
Sorry,
timelines to this? What are the timelines to this, though?
Sure. So because it's still small, when you go to the website, obviously it takes longer, but we've had very quick turnaround when we've worked on individual cases with Shubham Cybercop, with Swapnil Parvar. So you can go to the Ignore No More Online Instagram and you'll see what action has been taken in each case. The other people that are actually very quick to respond are the Delhi Women's Commission. There's Swati Malwali. She is the chairperson of the Women's Commission of Delhi. She is the youngest one to be in this position, and she takes it upon herself that whenever there's a complaint filed, she takes it personally and gets it reported. There's a national helpline for women. You can dial 181 at any point, even for cybercrime. All the details of the hotline WhatsApp number are also on the Instagram handle we've created. So what's amazing is there's all these different things that are possible. We're trying to collate them. To answer your question in terms of time frame, there have been situations where there's been enough public hue and cry that the perpetrators were put in jail overnight. And in some cases, it takes longer. So again, this comes back to us playing our own virtual neighborhood police watch, right? So all of us stop, and when some girl says this happened to me, if we all repost it, we all say and tag the Mumbai police and say, do something, then they do. And we saw this happen recently where there were rape threats given to this young comedian. And both these guys were put in jail. And that's what we need to do, because we are our own society right now. This is a whole other world, virtual. We are virtual citizens. And this is, so the speed of response depends on the amount of people that stand behind the complaint. And that's just the plain, simple truth of it.
Yes, I got some very nice prints from you
nice.
about what to do and what not to do and how quickly to do it. So that was very useful, where you said, don't panic. If you're a victim, save all your information, don't delete it, click it. And I guess you heard what Malini had to say right now about, well, we will post it again, about where to email, what to do, how to follow up, where to make the complaint, etc. And yeah, it's fabulous. It makes me feel so happy. So under which sections of the IPC do these guys get booked? That's the Indian Penal Code. Could you tell
Yeah,
us
so
that?
there's some very, absolutely. So there's a very specific one that we focus on, which is Section 354A of the Indian Penal Code, where it says people
That's what you
posting
sent
lewd
me out.
comments on social media. Yeah, absolutely. So if you post lewd comments, make sexual remarks, you're guilty of the offense of sexual harassment, which are cognizable offenses punishable with imprisonment. You could go to jail for this, and it could extend from 1 year to 7 years, depending on how the judge rules. And this includes messaging pornographic messages, asking women for sexual favors, and this could extend beyond 3 to 4 to 5 years, depending on how you're doing it, and also if you're a repeat offender. And I want people to know this one thing. You know, think that if they do this from a fake account, that they are untouchable, that they will not be held accountable.
Sorry, Malini, you're frozen.
We can
Sorry, you're
get
frozen.
your
Could you
details
repeat that?
because your number is, yeah, sorry. Okay.
You just phased
Okay.
out
Are
there for
you,
a
is
few
it better
moments,
now?
but just take that sentence
I think
back.
we're good now. Okay. Yeah, sure. So know that even if they are doing this from a fake account, they are going to be tracked down. So don't think, and you should also know that if somebody is commenting, don't feel like, well, I can't do anything. You can, because they would have still signed up from a phone email address, and they are trace complicated in that situation. But you should report it even if it's a fake account. And even if they delete their account, once you have their number there, it's very easy for the police to get their address.
That's good to know. That's really good to know. I hope all you guys are listening out there. And you know what? There's a big distinction between being complimentary to a lady and being nice, and then all of this. So I'm hoping, nice, decent guys don't get chased away. I'm feeling frightened about, oh my God, what could this be? Misconstrued as. There's a very, very big difference. And we all do know that difference as well. This is fabulous. So you're working with No Rape India, you're working with the Cybercrime Division, you're working with the Lawyers Club, with the Women's Commission to make all this difference. And I also believe that you're helping in different cities, and there's a different setup for different cities. Could you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so the same thing that is causing a lot of this friction of being online and not being accountable and everyone being connected, there's actually a flip side, which is also amazing, is that every police station, every state has a police department that now has a social media handle on Instagram. So you can actually get in Gujarat police through their Instagram. You can get in touch with the Mumbai police through Instagram, the DCP through Twitter. And so there are ways to connect with them. And I've discovered that every state has its very own cyber. Frozen for me for a second.
Yeah, no, I was, I could hear
Yeah.
you were frozen, but I could hear you most of it.
Okay.
Just I think the
Okay.
last 5 seconds I may have
Yeah.
lost what you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
So
said that
basically,
Gujarat police has its own Instagram account. You can
everybody,
reach them, etc. Yeah.
every state has their own police set up, so you can reach them locally. Where as we uncover more and more information, we're going to keep posting about it. The key thing to remember is that the more you tag and frequently you let people on social media know, all the authorities, you keep tagging them, they will eventually take notice. They're already taking notice. You've seen the DCP, everyone even tweeting about this, saying that this is not going to go unpunished. When guys are doing things like this, rape threats will be taken very seriously. So you can actually get in touch with whatever state you're in. If you just even look up your state and the word police, their handle should show up.
Super. And Malini, could you clarify one more thing? That, you spoke about the cybercrime government.in, that website. You spoke about Shubham, my cybercrime, I think, and then Swati Malwali. Which is the easiest, quickest way now, after you've kind of, gone around the mulberry bush and finding different ways to help? What is the easiest, the quickest way now for people to get this sort of help?
So I would say, since we're still in the process of uncovering the perfect way for now, the first thing to do is report the offense through Instagram. Don't stop there. Make that report and say, this person has sent me lewd messages. So Instagram is the first line of defense. Then you can actually DM the account Ignore No More Online with what has happened, and we will try to direct you in the right direction of whether you should go to the Women's Commission, or you should go to Delhi State, or you should go to the Cybercop, or you should go through a lawyer. So we're going to do our best to do that. Obviously, it's a small team now, so I apologize in advance if we don't get to you right away. But I know that this is a system where you will get some kind of response. But at the same time, there's no harm in also registering your complaint on the government website.
Right. So I hope you guys are listening in and taking notes. This video is going to be uploaded onto IGTV too, so you can always go back and refer to it as and when you need to. I hope you don't need to today, but as and when you do, because yeah, the reality of life is that they're out there. And, I also would like to be fair and say that it's really women that are largely targeted, and not all women, but I think, as you rightly said, probably 8 out of 10 women, would be the possible measure, who knows. But sometimes men have also been targeted, very few and far between, yes. But men can also be targeted by men, and they can be targeted even by women. And children get targeted too. So it's not just a one-way street. It's just that it's largely a one-way when it comes to women being targeted this way more than anyone else. So this is so valuable.
Absolutely. And I
Malini,
think the important thing I just want to
no,
add here is that everyone should file a complaint. Don't feel that because it's a woman who's harassing you, you can't file a complaint, you won't get justice. You should still file a complaint. This is not at all men versus women. This is men and women versus bad people. And we should all keep that in mind. These are people who are corrupting our minds, our lives, having a mental health impact on us, putting our children in danger. And that's what we're fighting against. It just so happens, if you look at the numbers, it tends to be majority men harassing women. And that's why you hear this conversation in this context a lot. But by no means are we saying it never happens the other way. There's a lot of situations where it happens with men, women, non-binary genders as well. So it's important to, get your justice if you have been wronged.
right. And, you really don't need to thank me for this. I'm so grateful you came on. I am in the fitness, wellness, health space. And this, of course, affects our mental, emotional, psychological wellness big time. It makes the world a more fearful place to be in, quite unnecessarily so. So I have to thank you for this. And it's fabulous that you're using your muscle, your power, your ground, and directing it to such good use in public service, something that is just so mandatory. But yes, I suppose, there has been this whole pattern of just ignore, block, move on sort of a thing. So I have to thank you for all of this. We've had loads and loads of viewers, and I haven't been able to say a hello to them, but I've been watching you guys come in, wanting to thank you hugely for joining us. It's been great having you here. And please refer back to this video as and when you need to. I'm sure we all will. Malini, thank you once again. And keep me abreast of any developments in this direction. Would love to know.
Thank you so much, Navas. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for spreading the word.
Thank you, Malini. All the best.
Everything that you're doing really helps us as well. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, all. Bye.